The extremism and short-sightedness and stupidity of the House knows no bounds. Their next move that they just took was slashing the EPA budgets for the next year by 34%. $2.8 billion less they believe should be allocated to the EPA. We're going to talk about some specific things that they're trying to roll back, but that's double the 17% that they tried to cut last year that they proposed. So another year or two, we might not even have an EPA anymore, and I'm sure many House Republicans would absolutely love that, but that would be a freaking disaster, and that's the reason we're talking about it here. So as I said, they're going to slash the EPA's 2014 budget by 34%, and there are some specific rules that they're trying to block, and they're trying to defund any EPA ability to regulate in these areas. So here are some of them. To limit carbon emissions from power plants, let's just stop there for a second. I understand that the Republicans, both for monetary reasons, because of the donations that they get from the coal industry, from the oil industry and things like that, but also because of their just general anti-science stance, they don't believe in global climate change and things of that sort. But trying to stop them from limiting it in any way, even if you don't believe in global warming, is the epitome of short-sightedness and stupidity. Pollution is a problem too. That's killing Americans. I understand that it doesn't shout verses from the Quran and run into a market and explode while killing them, but it does kill Americans. We need to stop these sorts of things. So I think that climate change, the desire to fight climate change should be more than enough when talking about these things. But even if you don't believe in that, pollution and the negative health consequences of that should be more than enough. But again, like I said, short-sighted. More rules that they want to stop the EPA from enforcing that require refiners to sharply cut the sulfur content of gasoline. Again, possible pollution and things like that they're trying to deal with. And as you can expect, the energy companies are fighting back, saying that it would add costs. I'm sure that it would add costs. The problem is the sulfur does add costs as well. Once it gets out into the air, once it gets out into the environment, and exacts its toll on humanity. More rules. They want to stop the Interior Department from completing rules that toughen environmental restrictions on the dumping of waste from mountaintop removal coal mining projects in Appalachian states. And look, hopefully you've seen at least a little bit of coverage of that in the last couple of years. If you want to see more, Think Progress is one of the best sites for that. That's not where this information is coming from, but they cover it quite often. That, again, is a disaster. And look, it's not taking place in San Francisco or New York City or something like that. Like you would think this nexus of Republican and conservatism, they'd want to protect them, but not so much because there's a lot of money in it for them. And so, look, this is just the House. It hasn't passed in the Senate as well. It obviously hasn't been signed by the president. I assume that it will not. But this is why it's so important that in advance of the next election, the midterm elections that are coming up next year, you get engaged and you talk to people about the consequences of allowing the Republicans to continue their hold of the House, let alone taking over the Senate. Little things like cutting the EPA by 34%, I understand that that does not drive people's political behavior very often, but we're talking about your health. We're talking about the health of your eventual children. People will die if we do not regulate these pollutants, like carbon emissions, like sulfur, and things of that sort. The EPA is extremely important, and it needs that money. $2.8 billion, that's nothing compared to the subsidies that we give every single year to the oil manufacturers, to the people drilling for oil and things of that sort. And it's certainly going to pay off way more for Americans. And so it's a shame, it's a travesty that the House Republicans are trying to cut the EPA's budget by this draconian amount. But look, when you look into their budgetary priorities, you understand that a lot of this money would then be put back into the military. It gives you an idea of where they're coming from.